Welcome back to the channel. Before we begin tonight's chilling story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new horror tale. And I have a question for you. What city are you watching from? And what time is it there right now? Leave your answer in the comments below. I read your comments with great excitement, and I love seeing where everyone is watching from around the world. Now dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin tonight's terrifying story. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not cigarette smoke, not fast food, not the damp cardboard smell my car usually had after a long delivery shift. It was perfume. Cheap, sweet perfume, like something sprayed too many times in a bathroom before a date. I was 29 then, living outside Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, driving deliveries at night because my daytime warehouse job had cut everyone's hours. I was behind on rent, behind on my car payment, and behind on sleep in a way that made the world feel slightly delayed, like every sound reached me half a second late. That night was a Thursday in late October. Rain had been falling since dinner, not heavy, just steady enough to turn the highway black and shiny. I had finished a delivery to a small motel off Route 322 around 12:40 a.m., a grocery order with cold medicine, 2 frozen pizzas, and a pack of batteries. The man who took it barely opened the door. He had a gray hoodie pulled low and one hand behind the frame. "Leave it there," he said. I set the bags down and took a photo for the app. Before I got back in my car, I saw the curtain in the next room shift. A woman's face appeared for 1 second, pale in the yellow motel light, and then vanished. I told myself it was nothing. That was the kind of thing you learned to do working nights. You explained away everything because if you didn't, you would never finish a shift. By 1:10 a.m., I was on the highway heading home. My phone battery was at 9%. My charger cable only worked if it was bent at a stupid angle, and the GPS kept jumping between my actual road and a road that ran parallel through the trees. There were no cars behind me, no cars ahead, just rain, blacktop, and the glow of my dashboard. Then the passenger seatbelt warning light blinked. I looked over. The seat was empty. I had a hoodie, 2 receipts, and an empty water bottle sitting there. Nothing heavy enough to trigger the sensor. The light blinked again. Ding. I reached over and moved the hoodie to the floor. Ding. "Come on," I muttered. The passenger seat icon stayed lit. I was too tired to be scared at first. I was annoyed. I slapped the seat with my palm, like that would reset it. The warning stopped for maybe 5 seconds, then came back. Ding. That was when I smelled the perfume. I turned the radio down. There was another sound under the tires and rain. A soft, uneven sound. Breathing. I stared at the passenger seat. Empty. The sound came again. Not from beside me. From low down. From the floor. My whole body tightened. I almost swerved. I gripped the wheel and forced myself to look at the road. "Who's there?" I said. No answer. The breathing stopped. My mind started flipping through every normal explanation. Maybe the vents. Maybe a bag shifting. Maybe I was exhausted. Maybe I had heard my own breathing and scared myself. Then something moved near the passenger footwell. A hand. It was small, wet, and shaking. I jerked so hard my shoulder hit the door. "Please," a voice whispered. The car drifted onto the rumble strip. I corrected it and nearly screamed. There was a woman curled on the floor between the passenger seat and the dashboard. She couldn't have been older than 25. Her hair was plastered to her face, and she was wearing a thin blue jacket that was soaked through. The passenger seat belt had been pulled down and clicked into place across her shoulder and the side of the seat, not because she was sitting there, but because she had wrapped it over herself like it might hold her in place. "Don't stop," she said. I stared between her and the road. "What are you doing in my car?" She shook her head fast. "Please, just drive." I should have called 911 right then, but my phone was at 4% and the service bars were gone. I had one hand on the wheel and the other hovering near my phone like it was a weapon. "Were you at the motel?" I asked. She didn't answer. In my rearview mirror, I saw headlights appear far behind me. The woman saw them too. She ducked lower. "Faster," she whispered. The headlights were small at first, then brighter. A pickup truck, maybe dark green or black, gaining on me too quickly. I pressed the gas. The road curved through a wooded stretch where the trees leaned over the highway like they were listening. My GPS froze. The rain got louder. My phone screen dimmed. "What is happening?" I said. The woman reached up and locked my passenger door by hand. "They use people," she said. "What?" "They make people stop." The pickup came closer. My stomach dropped in a slow, heavy way. I remembered the man at the motel. The hand behind the door. The curtain moving. The woman on my floor had probably slipped into my car while I was taking the delivery photo. I had left the engine running. I always did that. In and out. 30 seconds. That was all it had taken. A mile ahead, the road dipped under an overpass. That was when I saw her. Another woman standing in the middle of the lane. She wore a white raincoat and waved both arms over her head like something terrible had happened. There was no car near her. No hazard lights. No crash. Just a woman in the rain, alone on the empty road. The woman in my car made a sound like she couldn't breathe. "No," she said. "No, no, no." The pickup behind me flashed its high beams. The woman in the road stepped closer and waved harder. I slowed without meaning to. It was instinct. Someone was asking for help. She looked real. Afraid. Human. Then I noticed the ditch. 2 figures crouched there, half hidden by the guardrail. One of them held something long and dark at his side. I hit the gas. The woman in the white raincoat stopped waving. Her arms dropped. For 1 second, as I passed her, she turned her head and looked directly through my driver's window. Her expression went flat, like someone had turned her off. The pickup swerved behind me. Its horn blared. "Go," the woman on the floor said. I drove faster than I ever had in rain. 60, 70, 75. My tires hissed over standing water. The pickup stayed behind me, then pulled into the opposite lane like it was going to ram the side of my car. My phone buzzed once and died. No GPS. Number 911. No light except the road and the headlights trying to swallow my mirrors. The woman reached up again and grabbed my wrist. "There's a truck stop," she said. 2 exits. Police sit there. "How do you know?" She swallowed. "I ran from there. I didn't ask anything else." The pickup followed until the exit sign appeared. The moment I took the ramp, it kept going straight. No brake lights. No hesitation. Just gone into the rain. At the truck stop, I parked directly under the brightest light by the diesel pumps. The woman did not get out right away. She looked around like the pavement itself might grab her. Inside, the cashier locked the front door the second he saw us. He was a heavy man with a gray beard and a name tag that said Carl. He looked at the woman and said, "Oh, honey." That scared me almost more than the chase. He knew. Carl called 911 from behind the counter. While we waited, the woman sat in the corner booth with a foil emergency blanket around her shoulders. She told the state trooper her name was Marissa. She had been picked up outside a bar 3 nights earlier by people pretending to be a couple. They took her phone. They made her help flag down cars. When she refused, they threatened to leave her somewhere worse. She had seen me at the motel. She said I looked tired, harmless, and distracted. That was how she chose my car. The trooper took my statement at 3:02 a.m. He asked me to describe the motel room, the man at the door, the pickup, the woman in the raincoat. Another officer checked the parking lot camera at the motel. It showed Marissa crawling into my passenger side while I was standing near the room door taking the delivery photo. It also showed the man in the hoodie watching her do it. He didn't run after her. He just took out his phone. That was the detail I couldn't stop thinking about. By morning, local news reported that police were investigating a series of armed robberies on that stretch of highway. They didn't say much. They never do. But 2 days later, a detective called me and said my dashcam footage helped them connect the pickup to several incidents. I quit delivery driving that week. I couldn't afford to, but I did it anyway. For months, I would sit in my car before driving and check the back seat, the footwells, the trunk under my own coat. I stopped leaving the engine running. I stopped assuming empty roads were empty. I stopped believing that every person asking for help was safe to approach without thinking first. The strangest part is that Marissa sent me one message through the police later. It only said, "Thank you for not stopping." I still think about that sentence. Most of us want to believe we'll recognize danger when it appears. We imagine it arriving loud, obvious, and ugly. But sometimes it stands in the rain with its hands raised, looking exactly like someone who needs you. Story 2. I used to think loneliness made people careless. Now I think it makes them polite. That was my problem the night the white car followed me. I didn't want to overreact. I didn't want to seem dramatic. I didn't want to be the guy who called someone creepy just because they happened to be going the same direction. My name is Aaron, and I was 21 then, a junior at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. I had a campus job shelving books at the library, a scholarship that didn't cover enough, and a long-distance girlfriend who had just ended things over FaceTime while I was sitting in my parked car outside the student union. I drove to Findlay that Friday to see my friend Marcus because I didn't trust myself to sit alone in my dorm room all night. We ate gas station pizza, played old video games, and avoided talking about my breakup until it was late enough that both of us pretended we were tired. I left his apartment at 11:48 p.m. It was cold but clear. The kind of cold that makes every streetlight look sharper. I remember the smell of wet leaves near the curb and the sound of my heater clicking too loud because my Honda Civic was old enough to have opinions. About 10 minutes outside town, I saw the white car behind me. It was an older sedan. Boxy. Maybe a Buick. One headlight was slightly dimmer than the other, so from my mirror it looked like it was squinting. At first, I barely noticed it. A car behind you on a two-lane road isn't a story. After 20 minutes, it still was. The road had emptied out by then. Cornfields on both sides. No porch lights. No gas stations. Just my headlights and the white car's headlights staying the exact same distance behind me. I sped up to 65. It sped up. I slowed to 40. It slowed too. I told myself we were probably both heading toward Bowling Green. Same route. Same bad timing. Then I turned without signaling onto a county road I didn't need. The white car turned too. That was the first time I felt afraid. Not panic. Not yet. Just a cold little pressure in my chest, like someone had pressed a thumb there. I picked up my phone and called Marcus. He answered on the third ring, half laughing. "You miss me already?" "There's a car following me," I said. His voice changed. "Where are you?" "I don't know. County road something." I turned off just to check and it followed. "What kind of car?" "Old white sedan." He was quiet for a second. "Get to a public place." "I'm trying." "Don't go home." I hadn't thought of that, and the fact that I hadn't made me feel stupid. Of course I shouldn't go back to campus. Of course I shouldn't lead it to my dorm. My hands started sweating on the wheel. The white car stayed behind me. I made another turn, then another. It followed both. At one point, I pulled into the parking lot of a closed farm supply store and circled around like I had changed my mind. The white car slowed at the entrance but didn't come in. It waited on the road, idling, one dim headlight staring through the lot. I exited the other side. It followed. Marcus stayed on the phone. "Aaron, listen to me. Find a gas station. Not a dark one. A real one. Park by the door and run inside." "There's one on Route 6, I said. "Maybe 8 minutes." "Keep talking." I did. I talked about stupid things because silence made the car feel closer. I described the road signs, the mailbox shaped like a barn, the dead raccoon near the shoulder, anything to prove I was still there. When I reached the gas station, my relief lasted maybe 2 seconds. It was open, but barely. A small place called Miller's Mart with 2 pumps, a flickering sign, and one pickup truck parked near the ice machine. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed over shelves of chips and motor oil. I pulled into a spot by the front window. The white sedan pulled in behind me. Not beside a pump. Not in a parking space. It stopped across the lot with its headlights aimed directly at my windshield. I could not see the driver. The glass was too dark or too reflective. I just saw the vague shape of a head. "Run," Marcus said. I left my keys in the ignition. I don't know why. I just opened the door and ran. The bell above the gas station door made a bright, stupid little jingle. The cashier looked up from his phone. He was maybe 50, thin, with a graying mustache and tired eyes. "There's a car following me," I said. He frowned. "What car?" I pointed. He leaned to look past me through the glass. The moment he saw it, all the color drained from his face. "Get behind the counter," he said. "What? Now?" The way he said it made me move. He locked the front door, then turned off the automatic sliding switch even though the doors were manual. His hands were shaking. "You know that car?" I asked. He picked up the phone behind the counter. That car was here last night. Marcus was still on speaker. What does that mean? The cashier looked at me. A girl came in saying the same thing. White car followed her from Perrysburg. It parked right there. What happened? He didn't answer right away. Outside, the white sedan's headlights turned off. That was worse. The car became a pale block in the dark. The cashier dialed 911. As he spoke, I crouched behind the counter near stacks of cigarette cartons and lottery tickets. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Then the gas station phone rang. The cashier froze. He looked at the caller ID. His mouth opened slightly. What? I whispered. He turned the display toward me. The number shown was the gas station's own number. The phone was calling itself. It rang again. The cashier did not answer. The white car's headlights flashed once. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Marcus said, "Do not pick up." I didn't. A text appeared. "You left your keys." I stared at the words until they blurred. My car was maybe 20 feet away. Keys in the ignition. Driver's door unlocked. I could see the little green glow from my dashboard. Another text appeared. "Come get them." The cashier whispered into the phone, "Please hurry." Then the white sedan's driver door opened. A person got out. They were tall and dressed in a dark coat with the hood up. Their movements were calm. Not drunk. Not rushed. Calm enough to be rehearsed. They walked toward my car. I expected them to steal it. Part of me almost wanted them to. Take the Civic. Leave me. Instead, they opened my driver's door and sat inside. My Civic's brake lights glowed red. "No," I said. The engine was already running. The person in my car turned their head toward the gas station window. Even from behind the counter, I could feel them looking at me. Then they backed my car out of the parking space and parked it directly in front of the door, blocking the entrance. The white sedan sat behind it. 2 cars. 1 exit. The cashier grabbed a baseball bat from under the counter. "Back room," he said. We moved into a storage room that smelled like mop water and cardboard. He shut the door but didn't lock it. There was no lock. Outside, the bell jingled. The front door was locked, but the bell jingled anyway. Someone had opened it. The cashier whispered, "There's a side door." We went through shelves of soda syrup boxes and old promotional signs. My phone was still connected to Marcus, and I could hear him saying my name over and over, small and far away. The side door led to a narrow alley beside the building. We stepped into the cold. A police siren rose in the distance. At the same time, a voice from the front of the store called out, "Aaron?" It was a woman's voice. Soft. Familiar. For one impossible second, it sounded like my ex-girlfriend. My hand went cold around the phone. The cashier grabbed my sleeve. "Don't." The voice called again. "Aaron, I'm sorry." I almost answered. I hate admitting that. I almost stepped back inside because loneliness makes you stupid in quiet ways. It tells you the voice you miss might somehow be real. Then Marcus screamed through the phone, "That is not her." The sirens got louder. Footsteps moved inside the store, slow then fast. We ran. The police arrived less than a minute later. By the time officers cleared the store, both cars were gone. My Civic was found 3 blocks away with the keys still inside, wiped clean except for my own prints. The white sedan was never found, but the station had cameras. I watched the footage 2 days later with a campus police officer and a county detective. They showed me only what they needed to. The person who entered the gas station used a copied key. That meant they had been there before. The cashier later admitted the lock had been sticking for weeks, and someone had probably taken advantage of it. The girl from the night before had not disappeared. She had gotten away too. She was the reason the cashier reacted so fast. Her report described the same white car, the same texts, and the same trick of using a familiar name or voice. The detectives said they believed more than one person was involved. Someone followed. Someone called. Someone watched social media. My profile had my girlfriend tagged in old photos, my college listed, my hometown visible, everything a stranger needed to make fear feel personal. I deleted almost everything after that. I stopped posting where I was. I stopped answering unknown numbers. I stopped feeling embarrassed for walking into a store and saying, "I think I'm being followed." Sometimes I still see old white sedans and feel my chest tighten. But what stays with me most is not the car. It is how close I came to opening the door because a stranger knew which wound to press. Fear doesn't always chase you. Sometimes it studies you first. Story 3. My daughter's fever was 103.2 when my wife told me to go. That number still lives in my head. Not because it was the highest fever a child has ever had, but because it was the number glowing on the thermometer when I made the decision that almost kept me from coming home. I was 36, a restaurant manager in southern Indiana, and I had spent that whole winter feeling like I was failing quietly. My wife, Elena, worked days at a dental office. I worked nights at a steakhouse near the interstate. We had a 5-year-old named Sophie who believed medicine worked faster if you held her stuffed rabbit against the bottle first. At 11:17 p.m., Elena called the 24-hour pharmacy in Jasper and confirmed they had the antibiotic ready. I told her I'd be there and back in 40 minutes. It had snowed earlier that evening, then warmed just enough to turn everything into gray slush. The roads were mostly clear, but the fields were white and the ditches were full of dirty ice. I took my usual shortcut along Old Mill Road because I had taken it 100 times. It cut behind the closed furniture plant, crossed a small creek, then connected back to the main road near our subdivision. I picked up the medicine at 11:36 p.m. The pharmacist, a young guy with red eyes from a long shift, slid the paper bag toward me and said, "Hope she feels better." I remember thinking that was the last normal sentence anyone said to me that night. On the way home, my GPS told me to turn left earlier than usual. I almost ignored it, but a road crew sign blocked the normal entrance to Old Mill Road. Detour. The sign was orange and reflective, fresh-looking. There were 2 cones beside it and a blinking arrow board pointing toward a narrower road called Becker Lane. I had never used Becker Lane, but I knew the area well enough. Rural roads connected everywhere out there. I figured the county had closed the creek bridge again. I turned. At first, Becker Lane looked normal. Farmhouses set back from the road. Mailboxes leaning under snow. A dog barking somewhere far off. My headlights caught fence posts, bare trees, a frozen pond. Then the houses stopped. The road narrowed. The pavement changed from smooth blacktop to cracked asphalt with gravel along the edges. My GPS said I was 7 minutes from home. Then 5. Then 9. I frowned at the screen. The blue line bent strangely, like it was trying to redraw itself. I passed a broken sign on the right. Whitewood, peeling paint. It said Hollow Creek Cabins, though I'd never heard of cabins there. A minute later, I passed it again. Same sign. Same missing corner. Same 3 bullet holes through the word creek. I slowed down. "That's not possible," I said out loud. My phone showed 1 bar. I called Elena. The call failed. I told myself I had looped around on some back road. Maybe there were 2 signs. Maybe I was tired. My daughter was sick. My mind was full of fever numbers and medical instructions. Then I saw the motel. It sat off the road behind a line of leafless trees, a long single-story building with a broken neon sign that said The Wren. Half the letters were dark. 1 room near the end had a light on. I had lived in that county for 12 years. I knew every gas station, church, diner, and abandoned building within 15 miles. There was no motel on Becker Lane. My headlights swept across the parking lot. 3 cars sat there. 1 was covered in snow. 1 had no plates. 1 looked recently parked. I kept driving. A truck appeared behind me. No headlights at first. Just the shape of it in my mirror. Then its lights snapped on, bright and close. I jumped. The truck stayed behind me as I followed the road. My GPS now said I was 22 minutes from home. Then it went black. Not the phone. Just the map. The screen showed a spinning circle. The truck flashed its high beams. I sped up. My tires slipped slightly on a patch of slush, and I felt the back end of the car wiggle. I eased off the gas. The truck came closer. That was when the engine sputtered. I looked at my fuel gauge. Empty. That didn't make sense. I had filled up before work. I remembered because I had complained to myself about the price. The engine coughed again. No, no, no. The car rolled to a stop near a bend in the road, just past a leaning mailbox with no house behind it. The truck stopped 20 yards back. Its headlights stayed on. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. My daughter's medicine sat on the passenger seat in a white paper bag. The truck door opened. I grabbed my phone. 2% battery. No signal. A man stepped out of the truck. Tall, heavy jacket, baseball cap. Another man got out on the passenger side. The first man raised one hand in a friendly wave. "You okay?" he called. His tone was wrong. Too casual. Like we were neighbors in daylight. I locked my doors. He kept walking. "Road's bad out here," he said. The second man moved toward the passenger side of my car, staying just outside the brightest part of my headlights. I looked around for anything. A house. A light. Another car. Nothing. Then I saw the side mirror. A thin, wet line ran down from my fuel door. Someone had opened it. Someone had drained my tank. I remembered the pharmacy parking lot. A white van parked close to my car. A man kneeling near his tire. I had walked past him without thinking. My fear sharpened into something clean. This was not a strange road. This was a setup. The detour sign. The cones. The blinking arrow board. The false closure. The road that shouldn't exist. Only felt that way because someone had guided me onto the part of it nobody used anymore. The man reached my window and tapped on the glass with one knuckle. "Need a hand?" I held up my phone like I was recording. His smile changed. The second man tried the passenger door handle. I hit the horn. The sound blasted across the empty fields, long and desperate. The man at my window flinched, then slammed his palm against the glass. "Cut that out." I didn't. I held the horn down until my hand hurt. The man stepped back and looked toward the bend in the road. Headlights appeared. For 1 second, I thought it was another one of them. But it was a county snowplow. The big orange truck came around the curve slowly, blade lifted, salt spreader rattling behind it. Its yellow lights flashed over the road, over my dead car, over the two men. The men ran. They got into their truck, reversed hard, and disappeared back toward the motel. The snowplow driver pulled beside me and rolled down his window. He was older, with a white beard and a thermos wedged beside him. "You hurt?" he shouted. "My daughter's medicine," I said because that was all my brain could hold. He got me into the cab and radioed dispatch. His name was Glenn. He said Becker Lane had been officially closed for years past a certain point because the bridge was unsafe. No county crew had placed a detour there that night. Police found the fake sign 15 minutes later. They also found the blinking arrow board. It had been stolen from a construction site 2 towns over. The motel was real, but it had not been a motel for years. It had been abandoned after a fire damaged the office. People used the old parking lot for dumping furniture and drinking. That night, officers found fresh tire tracks, cigarette butts, and a plastic hose that smelled like gasoline. They did not catch the men, but they found my missing fuel cap in the pharmacy parking lot. Security footage showed a white van parking beside my car while I was inside. One person crouched near my gas tank for less than a minute. Another person placed something under my rear bumper. Police said it was likely a cheap tracker. The scariest thing the officer told me came at the end. "You weren't random after the pharmacy," he said. "They picked you before you left." I got home at 2:48 a.m. Glenn drove me the last mile after police took my statement. Sophie was asleep on Elena's lap, cheeks still flushed. I handed over the medicine and stood in the kitchen shaking so badly I couldn't open the bottle. For weeks afterward, I avoided shortcuts. I still do. I check my fuel door before I drive. I call my wife from inside the pharmacy, not the parking lot. I bought a dash cam and a portable charger and a roadside emergency beacon I hope I never use. I used to think knowing an area made me safe. I thought danger lived in unfamiliar places. But that night taught me something worse. Sometimes the place is familiar. Sometimes the road is real. Sometimes the only thing that changes is who has decided you belong on it. Story 4. There is a stretch of road outside Bellingham where the trees grow so close to the shoulder that rainwater falls twice. Once from the sky and again from the branches. I drove that road 4 nights a week when I worked the closing shift at a grocery store near Lakeway Drive. I was 27, newly divorced, and trying to convince everyone, including myself, that I loved living alone. My apartment was clean, quiet, and cheap because the heater clicked all night and the upstairs neighbor played drums at random hours. Still, it was mine. Most nights, after locking the store at 12:15 a.m., I would drive home with a gas station coffee in the cup holder and a true crime podcast playing low enough that I could pretend I wasn't afraid. That night, The rain was heavy enough to make the road look alive. My windshield wipers dragged across the glass in tired arcs. The grocery store smell of bleach, old produce, and cardboard still clung to my sleeves. I saw the old man just before the bridge. He stood under a cedar tree with one hand raised, not waving exactly, just holding his palm out toward the road. He wore a brown raincoat and a baseball cap. No backpack. No umbrella. His pants were soaked to the knees. I drove past him. Then I slowed down. That is the part people always judge. I judge it too. But I had spent the whole week feeling like the world had made me harder than I wanted to be. My ex-husband used to say I was too trusting, then later said I was too cold. I hated that both things could be true depending on the day. I reversed carefully onto the shoulder and unlocked the doors. The old man opened the back passenger door and leaned in. "Evening," he said. His voice was low and rough. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Need to get past the bridge." "That's all. That's all." He got in. Water dripped from his coat onto the rubber floor mat. He smelled like rain, tobacco, and wet wool. I kept driving. For the first mile, he said nothing. I watched him in the rearview mirror. His face was lined and tired. He kept one hand tucked inside his coat like he was protecting something. "What's your name?" I asked. "Ray. I'm Nina." He nodded like names were not important. The bridge ahead was narrow, 2 lanes with old metal railings and a sign warning about ice. Beyond it, the road curved through dense trees before opening near a small cluster of houses. Ray leaned forward slightly. "After the bridge," he said. "Don't slow down." I looked at him in the mirror. "Why?" "Just don't." I tried to laugh, but it came out weak. That's not a comforting thing to say to someone who just picked you up. His eyes met mine in the mirror. I know. That was the first red flag. Not the warning. The way he said it, like he knew exactly how bad it sounded, and had decided there wasn't time to make it sound better. We crossed the bridge. Rain hammered the roof. The creek below was swollen and brown, pushing against rocks and fallen branches. On the other side, I saw headlights appear behind us. A van. It had been parked on the shoulder before the bridge with its lights off. I hadn't noticed it until it pulled out. Ray turned his head just enough to see. "Keep going," he said. The van followed. I told myself lots of vehicles used that road. People lived out there. People worked late. People drove vans. Then the van killed its headlights. My stomach went hollow. In the mirror, the road behind me became black except for the faint outline of the van when lightning flickered beyond the trees. "Ray," I said. "I see it. Do you know them?" He didn't answer. The van's headlights came back on much closer. I pressed the gas. Ray reached into his coat and pulled out a small handheld radio. Not a phone, a radio. He clicked it twice. A burst of static filled the car. A voice answered, faint and crackling. "Ray," he said, South Fork Road. Past the bridge. Gray van behind us. My hands tightened on the wheel. "Who are you?" "Retired deputy," he said. That should have made me feel better. It didn't, because the van was speeding up. Its headlights filled my rear window. I could see the shape of someone in the passenger seat. They leaned forward, phone raised, recording or taking photos. The driver drifted over the center line, like he wanted me to know he could. "Do not pull over," Ray said. "I wasn't going to. You might when they hit you." My mouth went dry. The van nudged my bumper. Not hard enough to wreck us. Hard enough to say hello. I screamed and jerked the wheel. Ray's hand shot forward and grabbed the back of my seat. "Steady," he said. The van dropped back, then came again. My podcast kept playing through the speakers, some calm narrator talking about a missing person case from 10 years ago. I slapped the screen off. Ray spoke into the radio. "Need units now." The voice came back, broken. 3 minutes. 3 minutes can be an entire lifetime on a dark road. The van bumped us again. This time harder. My coffee flew out of the cup holder and burst against the dashboard. The car fishtailed. I corrected it barely. Ray leaned close to my ear. "When I tell you, take the logging road on the right." "What?" "Right side. Gravel. No sign. I can't see anything." "You will." The van's engine roared behind us. I saw the passenger window roll down. An arm came out holding something bright. A flashlight. It blasted my mirrors and filled the car with white glare. I couldn't see the road. Ray, eyes forward. Count with me. I can't. Yes, you can. 1, 2, 3. His voice was steady in a way mine was not. The light flicked away for half a second, and I saw it. A narrow gravel turnoff between two trees. Now, Ray said. I turned. The car bounced violently onto gravel. Branches scraped both sides. The van tried to follow but came in too fast. I heard brakes, tires sliding, then a heavy crunch behind us. I didn't stop. The logging road twisted uphill through trees. My headlights jumped over puddles and mud. Ray kept looking back. After a minute, blue and red lights flashed through the branches below. Only then did he say, "Slow down." I stopped near a locked metal gate and burst into tears so suddenly I couldn't breathe. Ray sat quietly until I was done. Then he said, "You did good." The police found the van in the ditch near the turnoff. 2 men were inside. They weren't badly hurt. In the back, officers found zip ties, stolen license plates, gloves, and several purses. One belonged to a woman who had reported being forced off the road 3 weeks earlier. Ray gave a statement too. It turned out he lived half a mile before the bridge. He had been watching that van for 2 nights, suspicious because it sat with its lights off whenever a woman drove by alone. His phone had no service in that dip, so he used an old radio to reach a friend who still worked county dispatch. "Why did you get in my car?" I asked him while police lights washed over the rain. He looked embarrassed. "Because you stopped," he said. "And once you did, they were going to follow you." I didn't know what to say to that. The next morning, the store manager called after seeing the police report and told me to take the week off. I quit instead. Not because of the road, exactly, but because I realized I had been building my whole life around being exhausted and calling it independence. I moved closer to town. I stopped listening to podcasts on dark roads. I started sharing my location with my sister. I still help people when I can, but I don't unlock my doors without thinking through what happens next. Ray sent me a Christmas card that year. No message, just his name and a photo of a wet road in daylight. People say kindness is never a mistake. I understand what they mean. But kindness without caution can hand your safety to someone who has been waiting for exactly that. The trick is not to become cruel. The trick is to stay kind without making yourself easy to trap. Story 5. The radio voice knew about the fog before I did. That is the detail that still bothers me. I was 24, working as a junior mechanic at a repair shop in rural Missouri, halfway between Springfield and a town so small it had 1 diner, 2 churches, and a post office that closed for lunch. I had moved there because my uncle promised steady work, and steady work sounded better than staying in Kansas City after my mother died, and every street reminded me of her. I rented a room above a laundromat. The walls shook when the dryers ran. My whole life fit in 3 duffel bags and a toolbox. On the night it happened, I was driving my uncle's old Ford Ranger back from dropping off parts at a farm outside Marshfield. It was 1:26 a.m. My phone had no service. The road was a narrow county highway with no shoulder, just ditches and dark fields on both sides. I had the radio on low. Classic rock faded into static. I reached for the dial, but before I touched it, a man's voice came through. "Dense fog ahead near mile marker 12. Reduce speed." It sounded like a traffic update. Calm. Professional. A little too close to the microphone. I frowned. There was no station ID. No music underneath. Just that one sentence, then static. 10 seconds later, I drove into fog so thick my headlights became white walls. I slowed down. "Okay," I said to nobody. The voice came back. "Disabled vehicle on right shoulder after the curve. Stay left." I leaned forward over the wheel. There was a curve ahead. I took it slowly. A dark shape appeared on the right. A car. No lights. No hazards. Just sitting there half in the lane. I swerved left and missed it by maybe 3 feet. My heart kicked. What the hell? Static. I checked the radio display. 88.7 FM. I didn't know the station. The signal bars blinked. The voice had sounded too clear for something that should have been lost in the hills. I considered pulling over, but the shoulder was mud, and the fog made stopping feel worse than driving. Then the voice returned. "Do not stop for anyone on this road." I turned the radio off. For 1 second, The cab went silent except for the engine and the hiss of wet pavement. Then the speakers crackled. The radio turned itself back on. Same frequency, same static, same voice. Driver of the blue Ford Ranger, keep moving. My skin went cold. My truck was blue. I looked at the mirrors. Nothing behind me. Nothing ahead. I pressed the power button again. The display went dark. The speakers whispered anyway. Keep moving. That was when I understood it wasn't a broadcast I had accidentally found. It was meant for me. I grabbed my phone. No bars. Emergency calls only flickered, then disappeared. The road dipped between two hills. Fog pooled there like smoke. My headlights caught a mailbox, then a gate, then a hand-painted sign advertising firewood. The voice came back louder. Slow to 20. Road obstruction ahead. I did not want to obey it. That was the worst part. It had been right twice. If I ignored it and there really was something ahead, I could crash. If I listened, I might be doing exactly what someone wanted. I slowed to 30. Ahead, orange cones appeared in the road. 3 of them blocking my lane. Beyond the cones, a figure stood near the ditch wearing a reflective vest. They raised one arm. I almost stopped. Then I noticed the vest. It was too clean. No truck. No work lights. No sign. No reason for road work at 1:30 in the morning in the middle of nowhere. The voice said, pull to the right. I kept going. The figure stepped into my lane. I jerked left, clipped a cone, and sped past. In my mirror, the person turned and watched me go without surprise. No waving. No shouting. Just watching. The radio hissed. You should have stopped. The voice was different now. Not professional. Annoyed. I hit the gas. The Ranger rattled as it climbed out of the dip. The fog thinned for a few seconds, and I saw taillights far ahead. A semi-truck. Relief hit me so hard I almost laughed. I sped up, trying to close the distance. The radio said, there is someone in your back seat. I looked. I couldn't help it. The Ranger had a small back bench, mostly useless, covered in rags and an old jacket. No one was there. When I turned forward again, a man stood in the road. Close. Too close. He wasn't wearing a reflective vest. He wore dark jeans, a dark jacket, and a baseball cap. His face was turned down, but his body was squarely in the center of my lane. I slammed the brakes. The truck skidded. The rear fishtailed. My seatbelt locked across my chest. I stopped less than 10 feet from him. For a second, nobody moved. Then the passenger door handle clicked. Someone was outside my truck. I looked right. A second man crouched beside the door, trying the handle with one hand while holding a flashlight in the other. He smiled when he saw me look at him. Not a big smile. Just enough. The man in front of the truck lifted his head. The radio whispered, unlock the door. I threw the truck into reverse. The tires spun on wet pavement. The man at the passenger door grabbed the handle harder. The truck lurched backward. He slipped, cursed, and disappeared into the fog. I reversed blind, heart hammering, until I hit one of the cones. It cracked under the rear tire. The man in the road ran toward me. I slammed the gear shift into drive and floored it. He jumped aside. Something hit the side of the truck with a metallic bang. A pipe or crowbar. I didn't look. I drove straight through the cones, straight through the fog, straight toward the semi's taillights in the distance. The radio screamed static. Then a different voice broke through. A woman. Unit 12, repeat location? It was a police radio transmission. I grabbed the old CB microphone clipped under the dash. I had forgotten my uncle kept it there for farm roads. Help! I shouted. I'm on County Highway M, men in the road. Fake cones. Blue Ford Ranger. Static. Then the woman again. Blue Ford Ranger, keep driving north. Deputy is en route. Do not stop. Her voice was real. Different from the first one. Farther away, with dispatch noise behind it. I followed the semi until flashing lights appeared behind me. A sheriff's deputy pulled in close and stayed there until we reached a gas station off the highway. When I stepped out, my legs nearly folded. The deputy found a dent in the passenger door and muddy handprints near the handle. He checked under the truck and pulled out a small black device stuck with magnets near the rear bumper. A transmitter. Later, police found a low-power FM setup in an abandoned shed near that dip in the road. It had a microphone, a cheap antenna, a battery pack, and a scanner tuned to local emergency channels. They had been monitoring traffic, watching for isolated drivers, and using the radio to sound official enough to control them. The disabled car had been staged. The cones had been staged. The fog had not been staged, but they knew how to use it. The deputy told me they suspected the same group in 2 earlier robberies where drivers said they stopped because someone on the radio warned them about a hazard. Nobody had believed that part. Not fully. My statement changed that. I kept working at my uncle's shop for another year, but I stopped doing late-night parts runs. I moved out of the laundromat room and into a small apartment with better locks and worse parking. I saved the dashcam footage on 3 different drives, even though you can't see much. Mostly fog, cones, and the blur of a man moving too fast in the headlights. But the audio is clear. That voice. Calm at first. Helpful. Then angry when I stopped obeying. I used to think fear was the thing that made people lose control. Now I think control is what dangerous people want most. They don't always need strength. Sometimes all they need is a voice that sounds official, a warning that sounds reasonable, and a lonely road where you have to decide who to trust before you can see what's ahead. Story 6. Don't trust a place just because the lights are on. I know how that sounds. It sounds like something people say after they've had time to turn fear into advice. But at the time, all I saw was a gas station glowing on the side of Route 9 like a little square of safety in the middle of nowhere. I was 24, driving back to Cincinnati from a weekend trip in northern Michigan with my best friend, Kayla. I worked as a pharmacy tech then, mostly closing shifts, mostly exhausted, mostly broke. Kayla had convinced me to take 2 days off because I had just gotten dumped by a guy who said I was too emotionally unavailable, which was funny because I had spent 3 years waiting for him to become emotionally available. By Sunday night, both of us were tired in that heavy, quiet way where even music feels like too much. It had been raining for hours. Not hard, just steady. The kind of rain that turns the road black and shiny and makes every pair of headlights look stretched out and unreal. At 12:38 a.m., my fuel light came on. Kayla looked up from her phone and said, "Please tell me that's not what I think it is." "It just came on," I said. "We're fine." "How many miles?" I tapped the screen. 32. "Okay. Find gas." My phone had 1 bar. The map showed a station 12 miles ahead, off an exit I had never heard of. Denton Ridge. It had no logo, just the little gas pump icon. The exit ramp curved into a road lined with trees and no streetlights. The rain made the branches shine. We passed a closed bait shop, a dark diner with plywood over one window, and then the gas station appeared. It was small. 2 pumps. A little booth with glass windows. A faded red sign that just said gas in block letters. The canopy lights were on, buzzing and flickering, making the wet pavement glow white. "No brand?" Kayla asked. "Small town thing, maybe." I pulled up to pump 2. There were no other cars. That was the first thing that made me uneasy, though I didn't say it. A gas station in the middle of nowhere can be empty. That isn't strange. What was strange was how clean the pumps were. Not new exactly, but wiped down. The trash cans were empty. No windshield fluid. No squeegees. No signs for snacks or lottery tickets. Just 2 pumps and the booth. Inside the booth, a man sat behind the counter. He looked about 50. Thin, pale, with dark hair combed flat to one side. He wore a gray button-up shirt with no name tag. When I stepped out, he didn't move. He just watched me through the glass. The pump screen was blank. I pressed every button. Nothing. Kayla rolled down her window. "Working." "I'll ask." Inside, the booth smelled like old coffee and wet carpet. The fluorescent light above the counter hummed. There were shelves behind him, but most of them were empty. A few dusty candy bars sat in a plastic tray. A stack of maps. A jar of pennies. The man smiled. "Evening," he said. "Hi. Pump 2 isn't turning on." He looked past me toward my car. Slowly. Too slowly. "Pump 2, he repeated. "Yeah. Cash or card?" "Card." He held out his hand. I hesitated. "You run it in here?" "That's right." I told myself it was a rural station with old equipment. I handed him my debit card. He didn't swipe it. He held it between 2 fingers and looked down at the name. "Emily Carter," he said. Something about hearing my full name in his voice made my shoulders tighten. Yeah, I said. He smiled again. You already paid last time. I actually laughed because my brain didn't know what else to do. I've never been here. He blinked once. Then he said, people say that. I reached for my card. I'll just use another station. His fingers tightened slightly before he let go. When I turned, I noticed the wall beside the door. There were missing person posters taped there. Maybe 10 of them. Some were yellowed, some newer. All printed on regular paper. Young women, men, a teenage boy with braces, a woman in a Kroger uniform, a guy wearing a college hoodie. At first, I only glanced. Then one face stopped me, a girl with blonde hair and heavy eyeliner. She looked like Kayla. Not exactly, but close enough that my chest went cold. The name was different. The date listed was from 2011. I pushed the door open too hard and stepped back into the rain. Kayla unlocked the car as soon as she saw my face. What? Something's wrong. The man had come out of the booth. He stood under the canopy, hands at his sides, watching us. I got in and hit the lock button. What happened? Kayla whispered. He said I already paid last time. What does that mean? I don't know. The pump clicked. Both of us jumped. The screen lit up with a pale green glow. Begin fueling. I stared at it. Kayla said, Did he turn it on? The man raised one hand and pointed toward the nozzle. We needed gas. That was the horrible part. We were 12 miles from the highway, maybe more from another station, and my dashboard said 19 miles now because I'd left the engine running. I'll put in $5, I said. Enough to leave. No, Kayla said. The man was still pointing. I put the car in drive. That was when 2 headlights appeared at the road behind us. For half a second, relief hit me. Another customer. A witness. But the vehicle didn't pull up to the pumps. It stopped across the entrance, blocking the driveway. A dark pickup truck. Its lights stayed on, bright enough to make the rain look like falling wire. The man at the booth lowered his hand. Kayla whispered, Emily. I reversed. A second truck rolled out from the side of the building, where I hadn't even noticed a gravel lane. It stopped behind us. My mouth went dry. The cashier walked closer. Not rushing. Not smiling now. Just calm. Stay in the car, I told Kayla. I am in the car. I turned the wheel and drove over the curb. The whole car dropped hard. Kayla screamed. The bumper scraped against something, but we bounced onto wet grass beside the station. I kept going, tires spinning, the steering wheel shaking under my hands. The pickup behind us moved. I aimed for a gap between 2 trees where I thought the road might be. Branches hit the windshield. Mud sprayed up. The fuel light beeped again. Behind us, the cashier started running. That scared me more than anything. Not because he was fast. Because until then he had acted like he had all the time in the world. We hit the road with a jolt. I nearly spun out, corrected, and floored it. Kayla was already on the phone with 911, sobbing our location from the map. I kept checking the mirror. For 3 minutes, the pickup followed us without headlights. I only saw it when lightning flashed behind the trees. Then it disappeared. We made it back to the highway with 9 miles of fuel left. A state trooper met us at a rest area 20 minutes later. I remember his face changing when I told him Denton Ridge. He asked us to repeat the name of the station. There's no operating gas station there, he said. The next morning, a county deputy called me. The station had closed in 2009 after a fire damaged the service garage. Someone had been using the remaining booth and canopy as a trap for late-night drivers. They found a card skimmer, burner phones, zip ties, fake missing posters, and a handwritten list of license plates. My name was on the list. So was Kayla's. The posters were copied from old news stories and social media profiles. The one that looked like Kayla had been edited. They had taken her photo from her public Instagram and changed the name. Police didn't catch the cashier that night. They caught one of the truck owners 2 weeks later after another driver reported the same station. The booth was empty by then. I don't take unplanned exits anymore. I don't let my fuel tank drop below half after dark. Kayla and I are still friends, but we don't talk about that trip much. Loneliness made me take that weekend. Exhaustion made me ignore the first bad feeling. Need made me bargain with fear. That's what scares me most now. Danger doesn't always have to chase you at first. Sometimes it just turns on the lights and waits for you to pull in. Story 7. My dad used to say a field remembers everything. I always thought that was one of those farmer sayings that sounded deeper than it was. He said it when a tractor left ruts after rain, or when deer kept crossing the same break in the fence, or when he found beer cans by the north soybean field and knew exactly which neighbor kid had been there. I didn't understand what he meant until the night I saw headlights moving where no road existed. I was 22 then, living outside Decatur, Illinois, in the same farmhouse my grandfather had built. I worked mornings at a feed supply store and helped my dad with the farm when I could. My mom had died the year before, and since then, the house felt too big for the two of us. Dad barely talked. I stayed out late more than I should have, because silence at home had started to feel like another person sitting in the room. That night, I'd been at my friend Logan's apartment watching a fight on pay-per-view. I left at 1:47 a.m. because Dad needed me up early to move equipment before rain came in. The road home was County Line 18, a narrow strip of cracked asphalt with drainage ditches on both sides and fields stretching out flat and black beyond them. No houses for almost 6 miles. No streetlights. Just my headlights, the dashboard glow, and the occasional mailbox leaning in the dark. I was tired enough that I slapped my face twice to stay alert. About 3 miles from home, I saw lights in the field to my right. At first, I thought it was a tractor. 2 white headlights moved parallel to me, maybe 70 yards out in the soybean stubble. They were low, bouncing slightly, but steady. I slowed from 55 to 40. The lights slowed too. I stared through the passenger window. There was no lane there. No access road. No reason for anyone to be driving across Dad's leased field at 2 in the morning. I sped up. The headlights sped up. I actually said, "Nope," out loud, like that would make it normal. My first explanation was poachers. People sometimes came out with spotlights looking for deer. Then I remembered deer season had ended, and those weren't spotlights. They were headlights. 2 of them, evenly spaced, moving like a vehicle. I called Dad. No service. That wasn't unusual on that road, but seeing the words "no signal" on my screen made the inside of my truck feel smaller. The lights moved closer. Not directly at me. Not yet. They angled inward a little, crossing rows of cut stalks. I could hear nothing over my own engine and the heater fan. No motor. No tires on soil. Just those lights sliding through the dark like they were attached to something that didn't want to be seen. I told myself it was an ATV. Then they vanished. I looked forward again, just in time to see reflective orange cones across the road. I hit the brakes so hard my seatbelt locked. The truck stopped maybe 15 feet from them. 3 cones. A metal roadwork sign. A strip of something dark across the pavement. There had been no construction there that afternoon. My heart started beating in my throat. The headlights in the field came back on. This time they were behind me. I threw the truck into reverse, then stopped. A second pair of lights appeared behind me on the road. For a few seconds, I just sat there with both hands on the wheel, understanding too slowly what was happening. They weren't trying to haunt me. They were boxing me in. A figure stepped out from behind the roadwork sign. He wore a reflective vest and a baseball cap. His face was hidden by the glare of my headlights. He raised one hand, palm out, telling me to stop. I locked the doors. He walked closer. "Road's closed," he called. His voice was calm, almost bored. I lowered the window 1 inch. "Since when?" "Accident up ahead. You need to step out." "Why?" "Because I said so." That was when I noticed the strip across the road wasn't a cable. It was a homemade spike strip. I don't know what part of me decided before the rest of me did. Maybe it was my dad's voice in my head. Maybe it was the field remembering tracks. Maybe it was just fear finally becoming useful. I turned the wheel left, hard, and drove into the ditch. The drop slammed my teeth together. Mud covered the windshield. For one horrible second the truck tilted, and I thought I had rolled it. Then the tires caught the far side of the ditch and climbed. Behind me someone shouted. A sound cracked against the rear window. Not through it. Against it. I didn't look back. I drove straight into the field. The truck bucked over frozen ruts. The headlights bounced wildly. My phone flew off the console. I kept the accelerator down, aiming toward the faint black line of trees that marked the drainage lane leading to our property. The other vehicle followed. Now I could hear it, an engine whining behind me. Smaller than a truck, maybe a side-by-side. It gained on me whenever the ground flattened, then fell back when I hit deeper mud. My dad's barn light appeared in the distance like a star. I leaned on the horn. I held it down until my hand hurt. The porch light came on, then the barn floodlights. Dad stepped outside with his shotgun pointed at the ground. The side-by-side behind me turned sharply away and disappeared back into the field. I pulled into the yard and threw up beside the truck before I could explain anything. Dad didn't ask questions at first. He just put me inside, locked the door, and called the sheriff. By sunrise, half the county knew. Deputies found the cones, the fake roadwork sign, and the spike strip. In the field, they found tire tracks from a black side-by-side and a pickup with mismatched tires. The tracks led to an abandoned machine shed on land owned by a bank after a foreclosure. Inside were wallets, license plates, tools, 2 stolen phones, and a notebook with times written next to road names. County Line 18 was in the notebook. So was Blue Ford Young Guy Late Nights. That was me. They had watched my routine. The headlights I saw in the field weren't floating. They were mounted on a side-by-side with most of its body covered in black tarp. From the road, all you could see were the lights. Police arrested 2 men a month later after they tried the same thing in the next county. They weren't ghost stories or local legends. They were just patient. They knew people are more likely to obey a reflective vest in the dark than question it. For weeks after, Dad walked the fields every morning. He said he was checking fence line, but I knew he was looking for tracks. I moved back into the house properly after that. Stopped staying out late just to avoid grief. Started talking to my dad again, even when the conversations were awkward and short. A field does remember everything, but so does fear. It remembers the shape of headlights where they shouldn't be. It remembers the sound of your own horn crossing open land. It remembers that sometimes the scariest thing on an empty road isn't being alone. It's finding out someone has been waiting for you there. Story 9. At 11:47 p.m., I promised myself I would accept one more ride. That was always the lie. One more ride, then home. One more ride, then sleep. One more ride, because rent had gone up again, and my daughter needed braces, and the check engine light in my Corolla had been on for 3 weeks. I was 36, driving rideshare in Louisville after my warehouse shift ended. My wife and I had separated 6 months earlier, and the car had become the only quiet place I had left. Some nights, I liked the strangers. They gave me little pieces of their lives and disappeared before I had to give anything back. That night was cold and damp, with fog collecting in the low spots around the hospitals. The request came from outside the old St. Agnes Medical Building, not the main hospital, but the closed annex 2 blocks over. The app said the passenger's name was Mark. 4.91 rating. Destination, Shepherdsville. 37 minutes. Good fare. I accepted. The pickup pin was beside a dark loading entrance. No security guard. No patients. Just a row of dumpsters and one flickering light above a metal door. A man stepped out from the shadow before I even stopped. He was mid-30s maybe. Brown jacket. Baseball cap pulled low. He opened the back door and got in behind the passenger seat, which I hated. Most riders sit diagonally from you. It gives everyone space. Sitting directly behind the driver feels deliberate. Mark? I asked. Yeah, drive. The app still said he was 40 feet away from the pickup point. You need to confirm the destination? Shepherdsville, he said. Just go. His voice was tight. Not drunk. Not tired. Wired. I started the ride. For the first few minutes, he kept looking out the rear window. He didn't take his phone out. He didn't ask for music. He just breathed through his nose like he was trying not to make noise. You work at the hospital? I asked, mostly to make the silence less sharp. No. I waited. He said nothing else. At a red light on Preston Highway, I heard a soft thump from the back of the car. Not inside the cabin. Behind us. The trunk. I glanced at the mirror. Mark's eyes lifted to mine. Your trunk always do that? He asked. I almost laughed because it was my car. What? Sounded loose. I told myself it was the jack, or the little emergency kit sliding around. The Corolla was old enough to make noises I had stopped investigating. Then it happened again. 3 knocks. Slow. Mark leaned forward. Don't stop. I looked at him in the mirror. He stared back. Excuse me? I said don't stop. There's nothing back there. My hands tightened on the wheel. The fog made the traffic lights glow in soft circles. A gas station passed on the right. Open. Bright. People inside. I thought about pulling in. Then Mark said quietly, I know where your kid goes to school. Everything in my body went still. I had a little pink booster seat in the back sometimes. Not that night. A school decal on my rear window from 2 years ago. Maybe he saw it. Maybe he guessed. What did you say? He smiled without showing his teeth. Just drive, man. The knocking came again. This time there was a voice with it. Weak. Muffled. Help. One word. I kept my face still. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. I nodded like I hadn't heard. Like I was scared enough to obey, but not scared enough to think. My phone was mounted on the dash. The rideshare app had an emergency button, but pressing it would show on the screen. Mark was watching everything. I said, I need gas. No, you don't. The light's on. It's not. He was right. It wasn't. I kept driving. A police station sat off the next major road. I knew because I used to park near it between rides when I wanted to feel safe without admitting I was scared. I had 2 minutes to get there. Mark shifted behind me. Why are you turning? Construction. There's no construction. I drive this area every night, I said. There is tonight. He leaned forward so close I felt his breath near my ear. Don't play with me. The trunk thumped hard enough to rattle the rear deck. I turned into the police station parking lot. Mark grabbed my shoulder. I slammed the brake. He cursed and reached for the door, but I had already hit the child lock button earlier out of habit. Back doors locked. Front doors locked. My thumb hit the horn and stayed there. The sound filled the parking lot. A uniformed officer came out first, then another. Mark punched the window once, then stopped as soon as guns were drawn. I raised both hands and shouted, There's someone in my trunk. The next minute turned into pieces. Police yelling. Mark on the pavement. My hands shaking so badly I couldn't unlock the trunk. An officer taking my keys. The trunk opening. A woman inside, curled under an emergency blanket I had forgotten was even back there. Her wrists were tied with a phone charging cord. Tape covered her mouth. She was alive. I sat on the curb and cried in front of 6 cops. Her name was Denise. She worked nights cleaning offices near the medical annex. Mark wasn't her boyfriend like he first claimed. He had been stalking her for months. That night, he followed her after work, forced her into my car while it was parked waiting for the ride, and then requested me from a burner account when he realized I was a rideshare driver sitting nearby. He chose me because I looked tired. That detail came from the detective later. He said predators notice things like that. People alone. People distracted. People who need the money too badly to question a pickup spot. My dashcam saved me. It recorded the sound of the knocks, Mark's threat, my route change, and the moment I pulled into the station. The rideshare company sent me an email with the subject line Safety Incident Follow-up, as if that combination of words could hold what happened. Denise survived. I only spoke to her once afterward, through a victim advocate. She thanked me. I told her I was sorry it took me so long to stop. She told me, you stopped. For months, I couldn't drive with anything in the trunk. I checked it before every shift, even after I quit rideshare. I took the school decal off my window. I stopped telling myself that needing money meant I had to accept every risk that came with it. I still think about Mark's rating sometimes. 4.91. Almost perfect. That number used to comfort me. Now I know better. A rating can tell you how someone behaved when they wanted something. It can't tell you what they're capable of when they think they have control. The app called him a passenger. He was never that. He was a warning sitting in my back seat, breathing quietly, waiting to see how much fear I would ignore. Title: 9. The car that copied him. The first thing I noticed was the broken taillight. Not because broken taillights are rare, but because mine had the exact same crack. A diagonal split across the left lens, with a little triangle missing near the bottom. I had backed into a concrete planter outside a Chipotle 3 months earlier and kept telling myself I'd fix it when I had money that wasn't already promised to bills. I was 31, living in Charlotte, working as an insurance claims adjuster. My life then was paperwork, apartment silence, and microwave dinners eaten standing up. My divorce had finalized in March. By October, I had become the kind of person who went to the grocery store at 10:30 p.m. just to be somewhere with other people. That night, I was driving home from a Walmart on South Tryon with a bag of frozen meals and cheap laundry detergent in the passenger seat. The road was wet from earlier rain. Traffic was light. My phone was at 9%. A black Honda Accord passed me in the opposite lane. Same year as mine. Same dark window tint. Same dent above the rear wheel. Same broken taillight. I laughed once nervously. Nice. Then I looked in the mirror. The car had slowed. I kept driving. 2 miles later, I saw it again. It was parked on the shoulder under a streetlight, facing the same direction as me now. Engine running. Driver inside. As I passed, he turned his head. So did I. For half a second, our faces lined up through his window. He looked like me. Not identical in some impossible way. Realistically similar. Same short brown hair. Same beard shape. Same build. He even wore a navy fleece like the one I wore to work. My stomach dropped. I told myself I had seen wrong. Night does strange things through tinted glass. Headlights smear faces. Anxiety fills in blanks. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring. It stopped. A text came in. Don't go home yet. I pulled into the parking lot of a closed bank and locked the doors. Another text. He's already there. I looked around the lot. Empty ATM lane. Dark windows. A flag snapping in the wind. My phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed my own name. That is hard to explain unless it happens to you. Seeing your own name on your phone turns the world sideways. It makes something private feel stolen. I answered without speaking. A voice said, "Daniel?" It sounded like me. Not perfect. Flat in places. A little robotic under the breath. But close enough that my skin prickled. "Who is this?" I said. A pause. Then my own voice said, "You should have fixed the taillight." The call ended. My phone hit 6%. I didn't go home. I drove to a 24-hour pharmacy and parked under the brightest light. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. People came and went. A woman bought diapers. A man argued into his phone. Life continued around me like I hadn't just heard myself speak from someone else's mouth. Then I saw the black Accord roll past the entrance. Slow. The license plate was mine. I stopped breathing. It wasn't just the same model. Someone had put my plate number on that car. I called 911 and said the words out loud because they sounded insane in my head. "There is a car following me with my license plate." The dispatcher did not laugh. That helped. She told me to stay where I was, keep the doors locked, and not approach the vehicle. The Accord didn't pull in. It circled once, then disappeared toward the main road. Police arrived 12 minutes later. By then my phone was dead, and I was standing inside the pharmacy by the blood pressure machine, shaking so badly the pharmacist gave me a chair. 2 officers escorted me home. My apartment door was closed. Locked. For a moment, I felt stupid. Then one officer pointed at the deadbolt. Fresh scratches around it. Inside, my living room light was on. I never left lights on. Nothing was stolen. That made it worse. My TV was there. Laptop. Cash jar. Work bag. But on my kitchen table sat a Honda key. Not mine. Mine was still in my pocket. Beside it was a printed copy of my insurance badge photo, the one from work where I looked tired and annoyed. Written across the bottom in black marker were 3 words. Close enough, right? The investigation lasted months. The man was eventually identified as a former claimant whose case I had handled after a minor accident. I didn't even remember him at first. To me, he had been one of hundreds of calls. To him, I was the person who told him his claim didn't cover what he wanted. He had found my LinkedIn, my old Facebook, my apartment complex through a delivery photo I had posted without thinking, and my car through the employee lot. He bought the same model Accord at auction, damaged it to match mine, made a fake plate, used voice cloning software with audio from my work voicemail greeting, and a few public videos from an old college account I forgot existed. He wasn't trying to kill me, according to the detective. He wanted to ruin my sense of identity. That phrase kept me awake for a long time. Security footage from my apartment showed him at my door at 10:12 p.m., wearing a navy fleece and holding grocery bags like he lived there. He waved at my neighbor. My neighbor waved back. That part hurt most. Not because she did anything wrong, because he understood how ordinary belonging looks. He knew nobody questions a tired man carrying groceries to an apartment door. I moved within 2 weeks. Deleted old accounts. Changed my number. Fixed the taillight before I even unpacked. For a while, I hated being alone more than I feared being watched. Then I realized those two things had gotten tangled. I had been leaving pieces of myself everywhere online because I wanted proof that I existed outside work and divorce and empty rooms. Someone collected those pieces and wore them back to me. I still drive a black Accord. Different plate. No dents. No stickers. But every so often at night, when a car passes with one broken light, I feel my hands tighten on the wheel. The scariest strangers don't always hide in shadows. Some of them study you long enough to step into your life wearing your shape. Story 10. The last normal thing my mom said to me that night was, "Take the main road, Evan. I don't care if it adds 10 minutes. I said, "I know," which was technically not a lie. I did know. I just didn't listen. I was 17, newly licensed, and still in that stupid stage where every warning sounded like someone doubting me. We lived outside Ashford, Pennsylvania, a small town tucked between wooded hills and old mining roads. I had spent the evening at my aunt's anniversary dinner, wearing a shirt that itched and answering the same questions about college applications from relatives who smelled like perfume and coffee. By 10:40 p.m., I wanted to be home more than I wanted to be smart. The main road looped around the ridge. The shortcut cut through Hemlock Hollow, a narrow two-lane road with no shoulder, no houses, and curves sharp enough that locals slowed before they could even see them. My mom hated that road. Everyone's mom hated that road. So of course I took it. At first, I felt proud. The kind of pointless pride only a teenage boy can feel about saving 8 minutes. My headlights caught wet leaves plastered to the asphalt. The trees leaned over the road, bare branches crossing above like fingers. My phone sat in the cup holder, playing music too low to hear over the heater. The night smelled like rain and cold dirt through the vents. Halfway through the hollow, my service dropped. Again normal. Then I saw the reflective vest. A man stood on the right shoulder near the old quarry bend. He wore a yellow roadwork vest over a dark hoodie and held a flashlight with an orange cone attachment. He waved it slowly, telling me to stop. My first thought was accident. My second was Mom is going to kill me if this makes me late. I braked. He walked toward my window, staying just outside the beam of my headlights. He was maybe 40, maybe older. Hard to tell. His hood was up. Rain dotted the glass. I cracked the window. "Road's blocked," he said. His voice was soft, almost friendly. "What happened?" "Tree down. You'll have to turn left up here." I frowned. "Left?" He pointed ahead with the glowing cone. "Old service road. It'll bring you around." I had driven Hemlock Hollow a dozen times in daylight. There was no left turn there. But he sounded so certain. That was the first trap. Confidence. Adults use it like a uniform. I leaned forward, trying to see past him. The curve ahead dropped away into blackness. No road signs. No cones. No work truck. Just him. "Are you with PennDOT?" I asked. He smiled a little. "Just helping out." Something moved in the woods behind him. A small shift. A shadow separating from other shadows. My hands got slick on the wheel. "I think I'll just turn around," I said. His smile disappeared. "No room. I can reverse." "You'll hit the ditch." "I'll be careful." He stepped closer to my door. "Kid, I'm telling you the safe way." Kid. I hadn't told him I was a kid. Maybe he could see my face. Maybe he guessed. But the word landed wrong. A truck horn sounded behind me. I jumped so hard my foot slipped off the brake. Headlights appeared around the curve in my rearview mirror. An old pickup stopped 20 feet back. The driver leaned out and shouted, "Don't turn there." The man in the vest snapped his head toward the pickup. That was when I saw the second person clearly, crouched near the trees ahead, holding something dark and low across the pavement. A chain, not a branch. A chain pulled tight at bumper height. The man grabbed my door handle. It was locked. I threw the car into reverse. The pickup behind me backed up too, giving me room, its horn blaring the whole time. The man slapped my window hard enough to crack the sound through the car. Not the glass. Just the night. I reversed too fast, nearly hitting the ditch twice, then swung into a muddy turnout I had passed earlier. The pickup blocked the lane between me and the man in the vest. Its driver, a big guy in a flannel jacket, got out holding a tire iron. "Go," he yelled at me. So I went. I drove the long way home with both hands clamped to the wheel, music off, every mirror adjusted toward darkness. When I pulled into our driveway, Mom was standing on the porch barefoot in her robe because she had been tracking my location until it froze at the hollow. I tried to explain and couldn't. I just said, "You were right." The pickup driver's name was Mr. Hanley. He owned a towing business outside town. He had been driving home when he saw my taillights stop near the quarry bend and recognized the vest. Not the person. The setup. 2 weeks earlier, a delivery driver had crashed in Hemlock Hollow after swerving away from what he thought was a fallen tree. His van went into the ditch. While he was shaken up, 2 men robbed him and ran into the woods. Police thought it was random until Mr. Hanley remembered hearing about teens being stopped there too, always at night, always by a fake road worker. After my report, police found drag marks near the bend, footprints in the mud, and a chain hidden under leaves. They also found that one of the warning signs near the quarry had been removed. Not knocked down. Unbolted. Nobody was arrested right away. That bothered me for months. It still bothers me. The world feels unfinished when danger gets away. But the police did increase patrols, and the township put up reflective barriers along the curve. My mom printed the incident report and kept it in a kitchen drawer like proof that fear had paperwork. I didn't drive Hemlock Hollow again until I was 19. Even then, I took it at noon, with my windows up and my phone charged. Getting older didn't make me braver the way I thought it would. It made me more aware of how often people survive because of tiny decisions. A locked door, a second thought, a stranger who notices, a mother's warning you almost ignored. That night taught me something I wish I had learned without needing to be scared. Independence is not the same thing as dismissing advice. Sometimes the people who sound overprotective are just remembering roads you haven't had to fear yet. Story 11. There was a camera above dryer number 6 that didn't belong to the laundromat. I noticed it because I had spent too many nights staring at the ceiling there, waiting for my clothes to finish. I was 27, living in a basement apartment in Spokane and working 2 jobs, mornings at a coffee kiosk, evenings cleaning offices downtown. My building had laundry, technically, but the machines ate quarters and left everything smelling like mildew. So every Thursday around 9 p.m., I drove to Suds and Spin on East Mission because it was cheap, bright, and usually empty. That year, I was trying to become a person again. I had left a bad relationship in February. Not the kind where anyone believed me quickly. The kind where people said, "But he seems so calm," and I had to learn that calm can be a costume. By November, I was still jumpy, still broke, still apologizing to furniture when I bumped into it. The laundromat became part of my routine. Washer 3. Dryer 6. Vending machine peanut butter crackers if I had extra change. Folding table near the window so I could watch my car. The camera showed up on a Thursday. Small. Black. Magnet mounted to a metal vent above dryer 6. Pointed down toward the folding tables. I stared at it for a long time, basket on my hip. There were already security cameras in the corners. Big white ones with blinking red lights. This one looked different. Cheap. Hidden badly, but hidden. A man in a green beanie sat near the change machine reading a newspaper. He had been there when I came in. No laundry basket. No detergent. Just the newspaper, which he wasn't turning. I told myself the owner had put the camera there because people stole clothes. I loaded my washer anyway. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. The machines churned. Fluorescent lights buzzed. Rain tapped against the front windows. Cars passed outside with that wet hiss tires make on pavement. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Nice blue sweater. I looked down at myself. I was wearing a blue sweater. My first thought was my ex. My second thought was that I had changed my number. I looked up. The man in the green beanie was still staring at his newspaper. Another text came in. "You fold slow." My hands went cold. I grabbed my wet clothes from the washer and shoved them into the basket. I didn't care that they were soaked. I didn't care about the quarters. I just wanted out. The man said, without looking up, "Dryer's paid for." I froze. What? He turned one page of the newspaper. "Dryer 6. It's already paid for." I hadn't told anyone which dryer I used. The front door opened behind me. A woman came in carrying a toddler and a bag of laundry. Ordinary life, right on time. Her presence gave me enough courage to move. I walked to the counter. There was usually an attendant, but that night the little office door was closed. A handwritten sign said back IN 10. I called the number printed on the wall for the owner. Straight to voicemail. The man folded his newspaper. I could see now there was a phone in his lap. The screen was open to a video feed. I didn't run. Running felt like admitting something before I had a plan. I walked to the woman with the toddler and said quietly, "Can you stand near me for a second?" She looked confused, then saw my face. "Yeah," she said. "Of course." I told her about the camera in a whisper. Her expression changed. The man stood up. He left the newspaper on the chair and walked toward the back hallway, where the bathrooms were. The little black camera above dryer 6 turned slightly. "Not much." "Enough." The woman said, "Oh my God." She called 911 while I took photos of the camera, the man's chair, and the newspaper. My hands shook so badly half the pictures blurred. The man came out of the hallway carrying nothing. Then he smiled at me. Not big, not dramatic, just like we shared a secret. He walked out into the rain. I tried to see his car, but he didn't go to one. He crossed the street and disappeared between two closed storefronts. Police arrived 9 minutes later. The attendant returned at the same time, pale and confused. He said he had stepped out to get food and had not put up the back IN 10 sign. Someone else had. An officer took down the camera. It was live streaming to a phone. The phone was found behind the bathroom trash can, still connected. On it were clips of women folding clothes, loading dryers, bending into machines, leaving alone. There were notes attached to some videos. Times, car descriptions, license plates. My name wasn't on the phone, but my license plate was. They found the man 2 days later because the laundromat's real security camera caught his face when he entered. His name was familiar to the owner. He had applied for a part-time attendant job a month earlier and didn't get it. Instead, he copied the layout, learned when the place was empty, and started coming in with fake maintenance signs and hidden cameras. The worst part was the police believed he had followed several women home. Not attacked them. Not yet. Just learned them. Their cars, schedules, routines. That word again. Routine. I had thought routine meant safety. I thought if I did the same thing every week, in the same bright place, nothing could surprise me. But routines can be watched. They can be measured. They can become maps in someone else's hands. The laundromat owner replaced the cameras, added panic buttons, and hired 2 attendants for nights. He also gave me a refund for the laundry I left behind, which felt absurd but kind. I bought a portable washer after that. It barely fit in my apartment and shook like a rocket during the spin cycle. But I didn't care. For months, I checked ceilings everywhere. Coffee shops, gas stations, dressing rooms, office break rooms. I stopped wearing headphones in public. I started parking under lights, facing out. I wish I could say I became fearless. I didn't. I became specific. Specific about exits. Specific about who is in a room. Specific about the difference between being paranoid and being observant. The laundromat was ordinary. That was the point. Bright lights, warm dryers, people just trying to get through the week. That's where danger likes to hide best. Not in places that already scare you, but in places you've taught yourself to stop questioning.